We have plenty of stuff to get to, broadcasting live, of course, on the FM AM dial. We are also on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, X, and our Facebook fan page, and all of those wonderful people that are watching and listening on the Occupy Democrats Network. Before we get right into it, do us all a favor here, support this show. Click the subscribe button on the Occupy Democrats page. It's only $5 a month, and you're going to get extra content from yours truly. That's how you support this show, and we appreciate all of you for doing that. Big show lined up today. It's getting right into it. It was another unhinged night for Donald Trump. To no avail, no surprise, Donald Trump won in New Hampshire. I don't think anybody should be shocked by that. And then last week, in his acceptance, or I should say celebratory speech last week, everybody was praising Donald Trump. And they were saying, he's been so cordial and respectful to Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. Listen, that guy can't last 24 hours without going on the attack and insulting and embarrassing himself and the country. And he went on an completely unhinged rant yesterday. He went after Nikki Haley's appearance, just attack after attack after attack, while these idiots, these embarrassing idiots, are standing behind him. His son, Eric Trump Jr., yes, who's a complete idiot. Tim Scott, who's an embarrassment to the country. Vivek Ramaswamy, we all know how I feel about Vivek. Smiling behind him when Tim Scott is the one who gave Tim Scott, and Nikki Haley's the one who gave Tim Scott a job. And they're smiling and they're pandering to Donald Trump. And it's just really, what a bunch of ass kissers, really, of the orange turd. So I'm going to play you some clips of some of this unhinged acceptance speech. And let's start right off the bat, just a couple minutes into his speech, Donald Trump going on the attack, yes, attacking Nikki Haley.
Last week we had a little bit of a problem, and if you remember, Ron was very upset because she ran up and she pretended she won Iowa. And I looked around, I said, didn't she come in third? Yeah, she came in third. And then I looked at the polls. She was talking about most winnability, who's going to win, and I had one put up. I don't know if you see it, but I have one put up. We've won almost every single poll in the last 3 months against crooked Joe Biden. Almost every poll. And she doesn't win those polls.
By the way, that's a lie. Let's fact check Donald Trump. Not every poll is beating Joe Biden in a landslide. In fact, there are many polls that show that if Nikki Haley ran against Joe Biden, she would have a better chance of defeating Joe Biden than Donald Trump was. So not a shocker. Just a few moments into his speech, he's already lying about the polls. Because, this is who Donald Trump is. And then he starts talking about independents. We know that most independents in this country will not vote for Donald Trump. Most polls out there actually do say that. But listen to what Donald Trump says about the independents in New Hampshire, which is also a lie.
She only got 25% of the Republican votes. I don't know if you saw that. Tremendous numbers of independents came out because in this state, because you have a governor that doesn't frankly know what the hell he's doing in this state.
Yeah, what a shocker that he's going after the governor of New Hampshire. What a shocker that he'll go after anybody that disagrees with him. And here's, to me, the most daunting part of this speech. And there are a couple more that are pretty serious. But here's Donald Trump again lying about the 2020 election while those buffoons that are standing behind him, Vivek Ramaswamy and Tim Scott, have these stupid smiles on their faces. How do they look at themselves in the mirror? Listen to this deranged remark that Donald Trump made.
Because if you remember, we won in 2016, and if you really remember, and if you want to play it straight, we also won in 2020. By more. And we did much better in 2020 than we did in 2016.
And these MAGA clowns are clapping. Vivek and Tim Scott are smiling and laughing when deep down inside they're thinking to themselves, well, that's definitely a lie. That didn't happen. But they smile. Donald Trump still saying he won the 2020 election, saying he did better in 2020 than he did in 2016. That's a lie. That's not true. Basically, everything he's doing, everything, mistruths, lies, conflating reality. He spoke in an arena yesterday, and he said it was a record crowd when right behind him there's a black curtain, and they cut off half of the arena with empty seats, and they hid it with a black curtain, and he's saying they had some sort of record for the most people in this arena. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. The petulant liar can't tell the truth. Donald Trump can't tell the truth. He's not capable of telling the truth. He is deranged. And here's Donald Trump mocking Joe Biden in that same speech.
We have beaten Biden. You could almost say, who can't? Who the hell can't? The man can't put two sentences together. He can't find the stairs off a stage.
You know, you hear that from the right? Joe Biden can't put two sentences together. Yes, he can. Did you hear the speech he made yesterday? Yes, he can. So that's a lie. And this is the same guy in the last month that said you need voter ID or ID to buy bread. This is the guy who said he defeated Barack Obama. This is the guy who said Jeb Bush got us into the war in Iraq. And Donald Trump is saying Joe Biden can't put two sentences together. Listen, they're both old. But if you want to talk about somebody with serious cognitive difficulties, I wouldn't say it is Joe Biden. I'd say it's Donald Trump. Do you hear what this guy is spewing on a daily basis? He's lost his mind. But yet he's the one making the argument that it's Joe Biden that's in the bunker, right? It's Joe Biden that can't find his way off a stage. Did you see Donald Trump last year taking step by step, struggling to get off that stage? But no, Republicans won't talk about that. And even with Joe Biden in his early 80s, and Joe Biden, who has struggled with stuttering difficulties his entire life and talks about it openly, I think he does a pretty darn good job in front of a podium, considering his age. It's Donald Trump that doesn't even know where he is. It's Donald Trump that pedals his way around and wanders and waddles his way around. It's Donald Trump. Have you seen the physique of Donald Trump? If you really want to talk about health, he is morbidly obese. Do you think Donald Trump could go on a bicycle and pedal for a mile? Joe Biden, at his age, is in really good physical condition. I don't think Donald Trump would be on the front of Fitness Magazine anytime soon. Have you seen Donald Trump's golf swing? I don't even know how he could even swing a golf club. He looks like Charles Barkley swinging a golf club. And Donald Trump wants to talk about other people and their weight, attacking Chris Christie. Trump is a pig. He eats his KFC every day. He puts on his 5 layers of makeup because he is mentally disturbed, and he is arguably more insecure than any 12-year-old girl in school. No offense to any young girls in school. Maybe that's not fair to them. He is the most insecure human being you will ever meet. Look at him. He looks like a clown. Literally, 5 layers of makeup to look orange. That's how insecure this guy is. And he can't hide his male breasts. He can't do it. He can't hide his disgusting physique. He can't do it. I'm sure Melania Trump is disgusted by him. I'm very confident about that. Trump is a pig, and he wants to call other people pigs. He wants to attack women on looks. Has he looked at himself in the mirror recently? I mean this with all due respect. When was the last time Donald Trump saw his penis? I would say decades, and I would also say the same with Melania Trump. She probably hasn't seen it in a very long time, in decades either. And this is the guy that's going to attack others on looks? Are you kidding me? Give me a break. And here's now Donald Trump talking about the polls again, lying about the polls again. Have a listen to this.
I just do want to reiterate the polls. We're way up on everybody. We're way up on Biden. And over the last couple of months, if you check, and you have to remember, in 2016, they were saying, oh, what does he know about elections? He's not going to win. He can't win. He can't. Well, we won. And we got millions, and you can check this, and I hope the cameras don't turn off because they hate this, but we got millions and millions of more votes the second time. Right, Mr. Congressman? Millions and millions of more votes. And but we had COVID, and they used COVID to cheat, and they did a lot of other things, too.
They used COVID to cheat. Who is they? What are you talking about? You're the one that praised President Xi. In China, they created the virus. When you were the president of the United States, praising President Xi, an evil, I would say, murderous dictator, and you praised him, And they created the virus under your watch. You see, if COVID started under Joe Biden, every Republican out there would blame Joe Biden. Oh, he wasn't tough enough. This would have never happened under Donald Trump. If COVID started under Joe Biden, Donald Trump would say, I would have picked up the phone and I would have gotten to the bottom of this and I would have found out who did it. And we would have saved hundreds of thousands of people. That's what Donald Trump would say if COVID started under Joe Biden. They created COVID, and he's called it election interference. Are you kidding me? This guy is so delusional and so mentally ill, and literally every word that comes out of this guy's mouth is a lie to try to boast himself and make himself look better, when I think most of America isn't buying it, and most reasonable Americans are tired of hearing it from this guy. They're tired of it. And now he's saying if Nikki Haley ever became president of the United States, she'd be investigated immediately. Have a listen to this.
And just a little note to Nikki. She's not going to win. She's not going to win. But if she did, she would be under investigation by those people in 15 minutes. And I could tell you 5 reasons why already. Not big reasons. A little stuff that she doesn't want to talk about. But she will be under investigation within minutes. And so would Ron have been. But he decided to get out. He decided to get out. Now, Vivek, I don't think would be at all, because he's perfect, right? And Tim Scott, I know would never. That's no chance.
Oh, boy. Unbelievable. First of all, last I checked, and not to defend Ron DeSantis, because I think he's a scumbag, and I'm not even, going to sit here and try to defend Nikki Haley, but last I checked, they both never defied a subpoena. They both have never been found liable of rape in a courtroom. Last I checked. They haven't had 25 people accuse them of sexual assault or rape either. They haven't filed for bankruptcy dozens and dozens of times because of their failed businesses, and nobody gave either of them a $500 million company. I don't believe they have any family members that attended Klan rallies like Donald Trump's father, Fred, did. They're not facing 91 felony counts. They're not facing 4 separate indictments. Last I checked, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley didn't steal from charities that they created. That's Donald Trump. Last I checked, Ron DeSantis, say what you want about him or Nikki Haley, they didn't have sex with a porn star months after having a child. That's Donald Trump. This is the man who just yesterday went after Nikki Haley's appearance, talked about the dress that she was wearing. Why does Donald Trump have such an issue with women that happen to be educated and powerful? Why is that? What is Donald Trump's issue with women? I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I don't think he's ever had one woman in his life that actually truly loved him for who he was or who he is. You think Melania Trump loves Donald Trump? What do you think about that? You think his kids truly love their father? You think they do? Now, if they're doing an interview, they would say that, of course. Did you see the video when Melania Trump's mother passed away and they're at the funeral and Donald Trump is walking with Melania and they haven't been seen holding hands? She won't hold his hand. Not recently, anyway. And she goes into the limousine by herself and the door is still open and Trump is, the little wussy is standing there as if to find out if Melania will let him in the limo to drive with her, and she just pushes him off. And he prances, a lonely man prances and goes into his own limo. Can you imagine that? Your spouse loses their mother, and your spouse won't even let you ride with them in a limousine? That's how loving that relationship is. I mean, how pathetic. And everybody is talking about what a landslide victory for Trump in Iowa. What a landslide victory for Trump in New Hampshire. I disagree. Because when you look at independents, they're not voting for Donald Trump to begin with these days. They're not voting for Donald Trump. 14% of registered Republicans, of the Republicans in Iowa, only 14% of them even caucused. Of those 14%, 7% voted for Donald Trump. Now, I know everybody wants to say, oh, this is a record. This is a record. 7% of registered Republicans in Iowa voted for Donald Trump. That is not a landslide victory. As much as MAGA Republicans out there will lead you to believe that it is, it's not. And the more and more I'm seeing these numbers, and the more and more I'm hearing interviews from just people on the ground and, independents and Republicans out there, the more and more I'm becoming more confident that Donald Trump is not going to be elected in November, that Joe Biden is going to be reelected. And if you actually want to talk about numbers, because many Republicans out there, not all, but many of them don't want to hear actual facts of how the economy is doing. They want to blame Joe Biden for everything. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the unemployment report that just came out, a couple 100,000 jobs were created last month. The unemployment rate dropped to under 3.7%, a 50-year record. Inflation, and if you want to use an excuse of, those are just COVID jobs, by the way, that's a lie. Not all of them are COVID jobs that were lost, that were taken back. Inflation has plummeted in little over a year. It was up to 9.1% over a year ago. It's down to 3.2%. 3.2% without causing a recession. It's immaculate, described by many economists. A typical U.S. household is better off than they were in 2020, far better off. Inequality has lessened somewhat in recent years, and wage growth has favored poorer workers. Is that the economy in shambles in this country? Those are facts. The S&P 500 climbed 24.2% in 2023. Is that is that the economy just crumbling? Because if you listen to people like Carrie Lake and Stefanik, I think Donald Trump called her Stepanik. Doesn't even know how to pronounce her name, and a lot of people are speculating that's going to be Donald Trump's vice presidential candidate. They'll lead you to believe, the Sean Hannitys of the world, that the despicable Mark Levins and the evil racist witches like Laura Ingraham will lead you to believe that the economy is in shambles, that this country is falling apart. Donald Trump said it yesterday. If I'm not elected again as the president, it's the end of our country. But wait a second. I just gave you some actual stats of where the economy is at. By the way, not opinions. Those are actual facts. Job growth creation, inflation, gas prices, everything moving in the right direction. Record unemployment numbers. But if you talk to the MAGA supporters and the Donald Trumpers out there, the MAGA morons, they will lead you to believe that the economy is in shambles. Why is it that Democrats have to recover what Republicans left them? Did you see the economy that Barack Obama took over? Did you see where Barack Obama left the economy after 8 years and the beautiful economy that Donald Trump took over? Brian, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, then go ahead and look it up. Look at the unemployment numbers. Look at inflation. Look at gas prices. Look at everything across the board when Donald Trump took over compared to when Barack Obama took over. Miraculous. And then look at the economy that Joe Biden took over. Oh, Brian, that's because of COVID. Okay. I won't blame Donald Trump for COVID, but I will blame him for the recovery or lack thereof. 15 cases down to 0. It's going to be gone by Easter. Inject yourself with disinfectant, and let's turn our coronavirus press conferences into embarrassing campaign rallies, attacks on Dr. Fauci, attacks on doctors and infectious disease experts across the country. Yeah, I do blame Donald Trump for that. Why COVID turned into such a political discussion, which it shouldn't have. Yeah, I do blame Donald Trump for that. He wants credit for Operation Warp Speed, yet there are so many MAGA supporters out there that call the vaccine poison. It is a joke. I gave you the statistics of where the economy is at. I gave it to you. I gave you the numbers. Those aren't opinions. Those are facts. So when any right-wing turd tells you that the economy is in shambles and Joe Biden is a disgrace and he's ruining the country, ask them how, and then give them the numbers. Give them the job growth numbers. Give them the NASDAQ. Give them job pay. Give them inflation and how we've been heading in the right direction. Give them the gas prices and how we've been heading in the right direction. And if they think America is still struggling, then let's compare the United States of America to the countries out there that we compare ourselves to when it comes to inflation, when it comes to the economy. We're doing quite well. Why? Because we don't have Donald Trump as the president of the United States. That's why. And if you want to name one huge policy that Donald Trump was able to accomplish as president of the United States, the one big bill that he passed, it was tax breaks for the rich, tax breaks for the top 1%. I could give you so many bills that help middle America and help this country under Joe Biden. First of all, the infrastructure bill. Let me remind you, the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Bipartisan. New gun legislation, health care for our brave men and women in uniform, something Republicans refuse to do. But Joe Biden and his administration were able to do it. Were able to work across the aisle to get some things done. The list goes on and on and on. Lowering the cost of insulin, something Republicans were unable to do or refused to do. And then when we do have a crisis, like at the border, and Republicans want to remind you time and time again, it's all Joe Biden's fault, right? Our border crisis, it's all Joe Biden's fault. Everything must have been perfect under the Trump administration. By the way, it wasn't. But they'll blame it all on Joe Biden. But then, when Joe Biden and the Democrats come up with a plan, something that Republicans don't do much of, when Joe Biden comes up with an actual plan and says, okay, we need more funding. Why? Because we want to get more border security agents to protect our border. What do Republicans do? They vote against it. Why? Because they don't care about the border. They just want to use it as a tool to go after Joe Biden so they can get Cheeto Jesus back in office. Don't believe me? Then explain to me why the Republicans voted against that. Is there any reasonable human being in this country, Republican or Democrat, that agrees that we have a crisis at the border and doesn't think that extra border patrol agents at the border wouldn't help? That's all Joe Biden and the Democrats were trying to do. And Republicans voted against it. Why is it that they do that? They vote against bills that could actually help the American people. They'll complain about something. Example, they'll complain about Obamacare, but there is no replacement plan. For 4 years, we heard Donald Trump say, oh, we're going to get that replacement plan in 2 weeks. Never showed up, did it? Never showed up. Why is that? Why do they vote against bills that can help people? Do you remember when we had a baby formula shortage in this country? Republicans were blasting Joe Biden for it. By the way, it had nothing to do with Joe Biden. But do you remember when that took place? Republicans were putting all the blame on Joe Biden. How could you let this happen? How could we have this baby formula shortage? Well, guess what? Joe Biden and the Democrats decided to put forth a bill allocating funds in the emergency to make sure that baby formula was put on the shelves. And what did Republicans do? They voted against it. Why? Again, because many of these Republicans don't care about you and me. Many of these Republicans claim they care, and they'll blame Joe Biden. Could be our issues at the border, a baby formula shortage, you name it. They'll blame Joe Biden for that, and they'll talk passionately about it. How could he do this to the American people? But then when a bill is put in front of them and it's time for them to vote, they vote against it. That says all you need to know about many of these Republicans that are in office today. They really don't care. They don't care about you or me. We need to bring back our country, make America great again. We don't want to lose our country. Well, we haven't lost our country. Our country's doing quite well right now. I get it. There are still people that are struggling. COVID screwed a lot of things up. I understand that. Nothing is perfect. But everything has been trending in the right direction, at least for the last 18 months. We could be talking about gas prices. We could be talking about the price of eggs. We have been trending in the right direction. And the stats don't lie, ladies and gentlemen. So again, when you have a Republican that tells you that the economy is in shambles and Joe Biden is ruining the country, ask them why. What policy? How is the country being ruined by Joe Biden? Explain that to us. If they want to talk about border security and how Biden doesn't care about the border, then ask them why Republicans voted down a bill that would have put more border patrol agents at the border. If they want to talk about inflation, then ask them if they know the percentage of where inflation is now compared to what it was a couple years ago. If they talk about gas prices, ask them what the gas prices are right now compared to what they were a few years ago. See, because they have no ground to stand on and they don't know what they're talking about. They are uneducated. Ladies and gentlemen, middle America, uneducated people, usually middle-aged white people living in middle America. That is Donald Trump's base. Uneducated Donald Trump supporters, ladies and gentlemen. Most of these people who are huge Donald Trump supporters have no idea what's going on in this country. They listen to their Newsmax. They listen to their OAN. They listen to Sean Hannity. They listen to these buffoons, and they believe every word they say. They are brainwashed, and they are uneducated, and they are easily duped, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the stats don't lie. America is headed in the right direction. Joe Biden is not perfect. I'd like to see somebody younger in office. Most people in this country don't want to see Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. But ladies and gentlemen, I won't blink an eye. My vote is for Joe Biden. I will not vote for a rapist. Yes, I believe Donald Trump, according to the judge, is a liable rapist. I don't like to vote for people who sexually abuse others in regards to the E. Jean Carroll case. I don't like to vote for people where you have 25 women that have accused them of sexual assault or rape. I don't like to vote for somebody whose own ex-wife accused him of rape in court documents. I don't like to vote for somebody who was handed everything on a silver platter and ruined dozens of businesses filing for bankruptcy. I don't want to vote for somebody that attacks POWs. I don't respect John McCain because he was captured. I don't want to vote for somebody who says there are good people on both sides when the other side are a bunch of Klan members that are saying Jews will not replace us, blood and soil. I don't want to vote for somebody that says, I don't want black people counting my money in my casinos. I want Jews counting my money. I don't want to vote for somebody that attacks women based on looks. I don't want to vote for somebody like that. I don't care whether they're a Republican or a Democrat. I want to vote for somebody that has empathy. I want to vote for somebody who I think is a decent human being. That's how I vote. I don't care whether you have an R or a D next to your name. I want to know if you're a decent human being. And I can tell you, beyond the shadow of a doubt, Joe Biden is not a bad person. Joe Biden is a decent human being that I have respect for. And, you know, it's sad. And Donald Trump himself is saying that. And I want to play you this audio. He is basically saying, if you don't vote for me, it's over. It's the end of this country as we know it. It's unbelievable. Have a listen to this.
But I felt I should do this because I find in life you can't let people get away with bullshit, okay? You can't. You just can't do that. And when I watched her in the fancy dress that probably wasn't so fancy come up, I said, what's she doing? We won. And she did the same thing last week, but he was much more angry about it than I was. I said, get up there and you let him know. We are going to win this. We have no choice. If we don't win, I think our country is finished. I do. I believe our country is finished.
Yeah, the country's finished. He's going after Nikki Haley for the dress that she wore because he's such a despicable douchebag. Can you imagine if Joe Biden talked like that? He never would. If he went after a candidate and went after their appearance and the dress that they're wearing, Republicans would be all over it. Can you imagine that? Donald Trump isn't this rich. Says that you can't let people get away with bull, you know what, with BS. Meanwhile, in the same speech, Donald Trump is saying he won the 2020 election. And everything in this speech is basically a lie, while that moron and that embarrassment to the country, Tim Scott, has that stupid smile standing behind him. And stupid Eric Trump and Vivek Ramaswamy, they're all snakes, and they've sold their soul to the orange turd. Let me ask you something. And I'm speaking to Republicans now, because I know there are some good Republicans out there. I have some of them that are personal friends of mine. How on earth can you defend supporting a man based on just the statements he made yesterday? Going after, at the time, right now, in a way, his political rival, Nikki Haley. Going after her appearance and the dress that she was wearing. Making fun of her name with racist innuendos, nicknames. I don't care how much you hate Democrats. I don't care how much you don't like Joe Biden. How can you defend voting and supporting for this man? How can you support him still? He continues the lies. He continues the hateful rhetoric. He continues the attacks because he cannot help himself. Is this what you want for the next 4 years? Really? Ask yourself that question. Is this really what you want? Because if you're not brainwashed by Newsmax, the Sean Hannitys of the world, Laura Ingraham, Mark Levin, Clay Travis, if you're not brainwashed, which I know some of you are and I can't help you, but if you're not a brainwashed person, even if you don't like Joe Biden, even if you're a Republican, do you really want this for the next 4 years with these 91 felony counts hanging over his head, attacking anybody that disagrees with him with these personal attacks? Is this really what you want? And if the answer is yes, then you're lost. In my opinion, you're lost. You can't tell me the economy is in shambles. I just gave you facts to back up my opinions on Joe Biden. You cannot tell me that it's Joe Biden with all the cognitive difficulties. Have you heard Donald Trump speak over the last few months? That's who I think has the cognitive difficulties, and that's the person that I think needs to be on medication. If you find Joe Biden wearing 4 layers of orange makeup, let me know. This man is mentally disturbed, and he is despicable. And I am going to open up the phone lines now. Agree or disagree. What did you make of Donald Trump's acceptance speech yesterday? What do you make of him going after Nikki Haley's looks? The number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. So we're going to take some phone calls on the other side of the break. We've been discussing Donald Trump's acceptance speech, so to speak, victory lap, so to speak, but it was filled with hate, vile anger, attacking Nikki Haley on looks, delusions that he still believes that he won the 2020 election, bizarre comments while Tim Scott and Vivek Ramaswamy and Eric Trump are standing behind him. A douchebag celebration, for lack of a better term. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think Nikki Haley should bow out right now, or do you think she should hang around? Again, that number to call, 702-221-7283. And that number, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. We're going to take a quick 90-second break. Don't go anywhere. And when we come back, we will be taking your calls. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits. Thank you all for joining us. YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, X, the FM AM dial, of course, the Occupy Democrats Network. Click that subscribe button. It's only $5 a month, and you get extra content from yours truly. We're talking about Donald Trump's, I guess you could call it, victory lap, acceptance speech. It was full of vile anger, hatred, attacks on Nikki Haley. We're taking your phone calls on that at 702-221-7283. Phone lines are jacked full right now. Keep trying, and we'll try to get to as many calls as we can. Let's start off with Henry. Henry, what's going on?
Hey, what's up? I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Hey, last night I was watching Biden on the things in New Hampshire, and they started chanting like Genocide Joe or something.
Yeah, there were a few idiots, Palestinian, I guess pro-Palestine people, and they were drowned out by the entire crowd chanting 4 more years.
Oh, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, what about it?
I was just wondering why they were doing that and who it was.
Well, I mean, you're always going to get protesters. Donald Trump had protesters as well at a few of his events the last couple days. There's always going to be radicals. There's always going to be people. And by the way, I don't condone that at a Trump rally or a Biden rally. I think there's better things you could probably do with your time than go into the front of the stage and try to scream at Donald Trump. I don't condone that on either side. But listen, there are morons out there that think that Joe Biden has committed genocide. Those people are complete idiots, probably anti-Semites. And I'm glad that they were drowned out by the crowd saying 4 more years. And I appreciate the call, Henry. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Wendy. Wendy is next on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Wendy.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Wendy. Good. What's on your mind?
Nothing. I just wanted to say I just ran across you guys' podcast. I love it.
Oh, thank you, Wendy.
You
I
guys are
appreciate that.
definitely telling the truth. As far as with that idiot Trump, his victory speech and what Tim Scott was smiling behind. Tim Scott, first of all, looked like a complete idiot.
Mm-hmm. Well, because he is.
And as far as
yeah.
with Trump, I mean, he said and he lies, and I'm so glad that you guys' podcast is really telling the truth and letting everybody know of and making him accountable for everything that he's done. And if we don't all stick together, then our democracy is at stake.
Wendy, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from California.
California. Okay, great. What do you think about Gavin Newsom? Do you think Gavin Newsom should step in there and try to run against Trump, or are you comfortable with Joe Biden?
Well, right now, I love Gavin Newsom,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a little bit too late to kind of run against Trump right now.
Yeah.
I know that even with all the polls that's going on right now, what they do is when they talk about the polls, they're calling people that is not working, people that has a lot of time on their hands, or they send out all these dozens of emails, which I get them all throughout the day, but I don't answer them because right now we're not even near the general election.
Right.
But so they come up with all these polls that is not realistic.
Right.
There's a lot of people in this country that do not like Trump, that has that is not planning on voting for Trump. And
Sure.
so, but they come with all these polls saying, okay, well, there's a close race.
Yeah, I stopped really paying attention to polls when virtually every poll said that Hillary Clinton was going to defeat Donald Trump in a landslide. Donald Trump will only mention a poll if it benefits him. There are polls that say Nikki Haley would, most of the polls would say Nikki Haley would have a better chance of defeating Joe Biden than Donald Trump would. And most of the polls in this country still have Joe Biden slightly defeating Donald Trump. Most of the polls are saying that, although I think it's a fairly close race. And there are always going to be people in this country. I call them the loud minority, not the silent majority of MAGA supporters out there. They brush their teeth and they go to bed, and then they wake up the next day and they just spew the same hatred and anger and vile nonsense and lies that Donald Trump spews. They echo everything that Newsmax tells them. They are brainwashed people. Many of them are uneducated people, and they are what I would consider deplorable. Not every Trump supporter is like that, But those that are in the MAGA Trump base, those that waited out in the cold for an hour in New Hampshire, those that just want to get a glimpse of Donald Trump, that buy all the MAGA gear, they are imbeciles and they are brainwashed, and they expose how stupid some people are in this country.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. And that's why we need more podcasts like your podcast that is actually speaking the truth.
Well, thank you, Wendy. I will also add, not only do we podcast the show, but we are live on FM AM radio, KSHP here in Las Vegas. And we do podcast the show as well. We broadcast on the Occupy Democrats Network. And I'm glad that you found our show, Wendy, and I hope you call back again sometime. It was nice to hear from you, okay?
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Now, before we get to some more phone calls, I do want to introduce my next guest because I promised that we would get a perspective today from somebody on the right, somebody who is a Donald Trump supporter. The guy we have with us right now, his name is David Pollack. He is from the David Pollack Show, and he is a Trump supporter. He is a Republican, and I want to get his take on this whole thing, and David joins us right now. David, I appreciate you coming on with us. How are you?
Sure, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
David, I don't think we have your audio potted up there. There we go. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great now, my friend, loud and clear. I appreciate you joining us, by the way.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Right.
Let me ask you this to start. No shock to you or me, right, that Trump won in Iowa. He won in New Hampshire yesterday. I don't think either of us are shocked by that.
Nikki Haley seems shocked.
Perhaps. Yeah, perhaps. But I want to ask you this. Are you surprised at all? Because last week, a lot of people were praising Trump on the right. Well, look at that. He was respectful to Ron DeSantis. He thanked Nikki Haley. Were you surprised at all that yesterday I felt like, and you can tell me whether you disagree or not, that he was unhinged going after Nikki Haley's looks, the dress that she was wearing? I just felt like it was back to old Trump, vile hatred. I mean, what do you make of that?
I don't call it unhinged. I think he was spicy. But the thing is, Nikki Haley, interesting enough, she knows she has no shot. I mean, she has no path. Everybody knows. I mean, even Chris Christie was caught on a hot mic when he left saying she has no shot. Yet she stays in this race. She insults Donald Trump. She's disrespectful to their relationship. And even when she's confronted with the idea that she's spending all this money to oppose him, she just says, well, it's a democracy.
What did she say to insult him, though? Because I thought she congratulated him on the win yesterday in her speech.
She congratulates him and then proceeds to basically attack his ability to be president. I think if you serve in somebody's administration, here's the problem with Nikki Haley. She served President Trump. Now, this isn't somebody who was just governor of South Carolina and decided, you know what, I want to run for president. She took the opportunity to serve for President Trump. Mm-hmm. And then she sees a pathway for her to become president. There isn't a pathway, but she perceives it to be a pathway. Or maybe she's asked by donors to give him a hard time. Either way, then she goes and runs as if she hasn't been loyal or involved in Trump's administration at any point. It's like she forgets that she was on Team Trump until it was.
Well, let me ask you a question. As a Trump supporter that you are, is it more important for somebody to be loyal or to be honest?
You know what? In this movement, I think honesty is loyalty. And I had a long conversation about this on my space on Monday night. Here's the way I see it. I don't expect everybody to love Donald Trump. There's a lot of people who don't, right? And Kirk Schlichter, who is, he was a DeSantis supporter. He's getting a lot of crap now from DeSantis people because he said, look, our guy's out. Let's unite around Trump and we'll try again next time. I gave him some crap in something that I wrote and on Twitter because I was like, you know what? What do you mean we'll get him next time? So you guys aren't coalescing around Trump. You're just waiting it out. But then I started seeing his posts and his attacks and seeing what he was saying. And I actually appreciate him at this point. I'm going to tell you why. It's okay if you don't like Trump. Be honest about it, right? But when Trump wins or you get out of the race, to go ahead and pretend that everything's good between you and Trump, I think that's the dishonesty. So that's where I, kind of combine honesty and loyalty. There's a lot of people who are in Trump's orbit that always hated him, but pretend they loved him. Nikki Haley's a perfect example.
I understand, David, but when you're going to use the term honesty, I laugh because with all due respect, you're supporting a guy who just yesterday again spews the lies that he won the 2020 election. He lies about the polls. He lies about independents supporting him, and he lies about the 2020 election. Literally almost every word out of his mouth yesterday was a lie. And, why is it that all these people around Donald Trump eventually seem to turn on him and speak out against him. Is that just a coincidence? Or is Donald Trump just a despicable person who is a moron in the things he says on a daily basis? Which is it?
I mean, I think that in politics, there's a lot of pragmatic, opportunistic people involved in whether it's the right or the left. Around Trump's orbit, especially, there's a lot of people. The GOP has never liked Trump, by the way. This is somebody they've dealt with because he was influential. And then when he ran, it was somebody they laughed at and took for granted, ignored, and didn't think he would win. Same thing on the right. I mean, same thing on the left. Nobody took him seriously. Then he became president because now he's the leader of the GOP and the president of the United States. Then they pretended that they were good with him. But it's funny, if you were paying attention from the very beginning.
Well, they're phony. I agree with you.
They're phony, right? But that's the thing. So,
David, is that a fair comparison? Do you remember back in 2016, a Democrat that said Hillary was a liar, despicable, unhinged, unfit, and then later supported her? Because almost everybody on the right, the Ted Cruz's of the world, the Marco Rubio's, they all said that he was unfit. Every word out of his mouth is a lie. And then they brown nose him. What does that say about your party?
Listen, I have lots of criticisms about my party. The Democrats are a lot better at getting along and winning. I mean, that's for sure. They have their disputes in private, and in public, they're unified. I talked about this last time I was on your show. The Democrats are much better at this politics game than Republicans are. The thing about Republicans is, and you're seeing a rift in the Republican Party right now. And when we have more time, we could talk about that a little more because it's very interesting. But what you have, and there's an article in the DC Patriot that should be out a little bit later, if not out already, that I wrote about this rift. You have an old guard, you have an old establishment that Nikki Haley referred to in her own speech as if she's not part of it. And then you have this Trump. Now, you're right. There's a lot of people in the Republican Party who don't like Trump, but they pretended they did for a long time until it became popular not to like him again. And then when it looked like he was going to be the nominee, they're pretending to like him again. I'm okay if you don't like Trump. We're not a cult. You don't have to agree. But be honest about it. But be honest. Well, there are people.
I'm not saying you're a cultist. I'm David. I'm not saying that. However, have you ever seen a Joe Biden malarkey flag on the back of a pickup truck? I mean, I say that in all.
I have seen Joe Biden flags. They're just not
right. But I mean, come on. There are people, that, in my opinion, a large part of the MAGA base. Donald Trump said it himself. If I shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, they would still support me. Isn't that the definition of a cult? The guy, okay, again, I don't want to go back to Donald Trump's body, but I guess in this case I will. They look at him as Superman with these Superman pictures. Have you seen what Donald Trump looks like? I mean, to me, that it is a cult. I'm not saying everybody that supports Trump is a cultist, but a large part of his base, in my opinion, is.
Politics is a cult. I mean, to be fair, I mean, you know that song, Cult of Personality? And actually, if you go back to even like Karl Marx, this idea of a cult of personality, it's a philosophy from politics. Is the idea about being bigger than somebody. I mean,
David, I get that.
Politics is a cult. It's Joe Biden too. I mean, Joe Biden is a geriatric guy who doesn't even know where he has his oatmeal for brains. And there's people who love him. But how do you love Joe Biden unless he's your grandfather? Listen, the cult is politics.
David, you're doing what I talked about in the first segment. I get it. Joe Biden. That's okay. I get it. Joe Biden's old. Yeah. But I always hear people going after Joe Biden. Like Trump can't put two sentences together. Yeah. Have you seen the things that Trump has said in the last month? First of all, he doesn't even know how to pronounce Stefanik's name. That's number one. A lot of people are saying might pick her as his vice president. He doesn't even know sometimes what state he's in. In the last month, he said you need to ID to buy bread. He said he defeated Barack Obama. He said Jeb Bush got us into the war in Iraq. So this idea that Joe Biden, all these cognitive issues, I would say Trump's worse. He's delusional.
Honestly, though, let's be fair. Look, I'm not. If you had to put Joe Biden and Donald Trump and say which one seems more mentally sound, honestly, you think Joe Biden is more mentally sound than Donald Trump? I mean, you saw Joe Biden the other day. He can't even articulate what's in front of him on a teleprompter. There's no way he's more mentally sound.
And by the way, if you look at Donald Trump in front of a teleprompter, he can't even pronounce words. They're both old. But I will say this, the one who's more mentally disturbed is the one who wears 5 layers of makeup, who looks like a clown. The one who's more mentally disturbed is the one that can't help himself, lies about the 2020 election, can't accept defeat, and always makes everything about him being the victim. I would say that is a mental illness. I would say Donald Trump is very disturbed and mentally ill. Joe Biden is your typical 80-year-old guy. He's not the same guy he was 10 years ago. Can you picture, though, Donald Trump on a bicycle going on a bike and getting exercise. Joe Biden can do that.
I don't
Can
know
you
that Donald Trump's ever ridden a bike, though.
Right, exactly. Well, look at him. That makes sense.
No,
to
I don't
me.
mean it that way. I mean, I don't think
well,
he's ever
I
been
mean
in
it that
public
way. Have you
riding a
seen-
bike.
Who do you think would win in a 100-yard dash? Donald Trump. Look at the guy. So
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
at the same time, could you imagine? I mean, nobody's ever seen Donald Trump like wandering around, having me guided around by Secret Service and whoever's around him with the right direction to go into. He's never tried to shake hands with an imaginary person on stage.
listen,
Yeah.
Joe Biden's old. Donald
Yeah.
Trump's old. But if we're going to talk about what's more dangerous to the country, and I know we disagree on this,
Yeah.
it's Donald Trump. I believe he's deranged. And my question, I guess, to somebody like
Sure.
you, and again, I know that you're a Trump supporter, is
Yeah.
when you hear somebody, and I've asked you this before, I
Yeah.
asked Trump, so attacking a woman based on looks, attacking her dress that she's wearing, it's so beneath the presidency. It's so beneath office. And that's the part that to me is so despicable about Donald Trump.
A lot of people share
gotta
that.
bother
A
you,
lot
David.
of people don't like the way Donald Trump's. I get that he's not everybody's cup of tea. He
That
doesn't.
doesn't bother you? That doesn't bother you at all?
It doesn't, because, and like I mentioned last time, we live in strange times politically, and we are in a time where you have to do what it takes to not only communicate messages. There's networks that won't even carry him. He's really good at getting attention, right? And you have to look at where that you have to look at what's underneath it. He's getting media attention where they're trying to ignore him. He's upset with Nikki Haley, and he's being honest. Would you rather Donald Trump say ugly things about his opponents in public, or be caught on a hot mic doing it in private?
I would rather
says what everybody else says when they think they're alone. When
disagree.
he just
Completely disagree with you. Do you think Joe Biden in private is attacking women on looks?
100% in
Oh,
private.
what?
He
That's
has said some ridiculous things on camera, whether he realizes it or not.
What has he said on camera that you think rises to that level?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but when he talked about, what was it? Poor kids are just as smart as white kids. It was, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. What are some of the other things he was
What is
saying?
so wrong about
Republicans want to put
saying,
you back in chains?
wait, hold on a second. What
Sure.
is so wrong about saying a poor kid
Yeah.
is just as smart
Yeah.
as somebody who's
White.
What
Because
is
you're making the assumption that because you're poor, that you're non-white. It's a racist statement. It
you're
shows
making the assumption that everybody is smart no matter how rich
no,
they
the
are
way
or
he
what they
said it
look
was
like.
poor kids are just as
All
smart
right.
as white kids.
Well,
Anyway,
I think-
we're not going to
okay.
agree on Trump. I
I
just feel
mean-
like we're ever going to have a day where you're like, you
No,
know what,
I know
David, you
that.
got me.
I know that. I
But-
just disagree
yeah.
with you that the idea that Joe Biden or Democrats behind
Yeah.
closed doors are attacking women on looks like Donald
Oh,
Trump does on a regular basis.
Of course they do. They do.
Well-
Have you seen The View? I mean, all they do, if you're a Republican and a
The
woman,
View, they're
you're
not
attacked
politicians.
by
They're
them
not-
in the
right,
most
but those
brutal
are-
ways. By
But
the way.
those are media personalities. I wasn't talking about Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Whoopi Goldberg. We're talking
Right.
about the president of the United States, and there should be a standard. That's all I'm saying. Now, if that doesn't bother you, that's fine. You're entitled to that. I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. It is beneath the level of
Can I
office.
tell you why it doesn't bother me, though, if I may?
Sure, sure.
The reason why it doesn't bother me is because I'm more concerned with the results of the person and not the
All right.
person that they're portraying him to be.
You're concerned about the results.
The
All right,
results. And Donald
let's-
Trump was by far a much more effective president than
I
Joe Biden.
disagree. I disagree. But since you're talking about
Yeah.
results, let's talk
Sure.
about that.
I'm down. with it.
Hundreds of thousands of jobs created in December. The unemployment rate is down to 3.7%. If the argument is, well, those are all COVID jobs, that's not true. Inflation has been plummeting over the last year, 9.1% down to 3.2%.
Well, let's stop there. If inflation, the funny thing is, a lot of these statistics come from where? Where are those statistics that you're reading from? What are the sources?
So you're telling me that these statistics are not accurate?
What I'm telling you is that
Job rate
when the
numbers.
government is creating the statistics that support their efficacy,
Mhm.
I think maybe you need to look at what's actually happening on Main Street. And if inflation has gone down by 9%,
It
who's
has.
paying less? Okay, are you paying less money at the grocery store for milk and eggs? I'm not.
Yes,
My
yes.
grocery bill.
What grocery store? What
you
grocery store are you going to?
You might have changed to Aldi, but all I know is that in my grocery store, the food has not gotten less expensive. The shelves are not any fuller. You know, that's the thing. You can say inflation's going down and you can report that inflation's going down, but the average American are not feeling like inflation is going down.
Okay,
And-
well,
and
I
that's
don't
the
go
problem.
by, as Ben Shapiro said, your thoughts don't care about your feelings or whatever the hell that he says. Feelings are one thing, actual
Yeah.
stats are another. And I would
But the
also,
stats are the problem. The stats are not an accurate picture of what's actually happening in the country.
Okay. Well, I mean, what about a typical U.S. household?
Okay.
Are they better off now than back in 2020?
Absolutely
They're
not. No,
Okay.
they're
Well,
not better
stats
off.
would tell you differently.
That's
I
my
mean,
point.
I don't know
Statistics,
what to
you know
tell
what
you.
I say? I say statistics is when people use math to lie to people because you can
Oh yeah,
manipulate a
Donald Trump does
statistic.
that every day. He
All
does that every
politicians,
day.
there's a lot of politicians to do that. But the thing is, when you start to say, well, X amount of percent of somebody, when you start to use numbers to make an example, what you're really doing is you're just trying to illustrate something to convince somebody it's there when it's not.
Well,
Inflation,
I'm just trying to give you facts. What
no,
about the S&P growth? Is that a lie too? You don't believe that?
but that's an interesting. Actually, you mentioned the stock market because I'm always
Yeah.
dumbfounded by the stock market,
Yeah.
right?
It
Because
climbed 24% in
it's
2023. Is that a
insane,
lie?
right? But the thing is, here's the thing: your car loan, right? It's not your car loan is still at 6.5%. Your
Mhm.
auto, I mean, car prices are coming down a little now that demand and supply are starting to level off with that. But at the same time, people can't afford to finance things right now. If your air conditioning breaks on your home, you're in trouble. If you need a new car, you're gonna have to get a 7 or 8% loan, even with good credit. So it's still for the average household, it's still really difficult to participate in this
I'm not
economy. There's no
saying
way it's better
I'm
now than
not
it was
saying it's
before.
I'm not well, it is. I just gave you the stat, but I'm
But it
not
doesn't
saying it's
feel
not
that way. And
difficult.
you're right.
Well,
Feelings don't matter. But for the people who are voting in 2024, the economy is the number one issue that they're talking about on exit polls. And
sure.
why would the economy be the number one issue if the economy is so great?
Because
People on
Republicans, because of this conversation that we're having with
because
all due
they're
respect.
being lied to, so people
Uh,
feel like the
well,
economy's
it's
bad,
a
or because
fact.
it's not true though?
It's a fact that they're being lied to because 6 or 7 out of 10 Republicans think that Donald Trump won the 2020
But if
election,
they're being
and these are
lied
some of the
to,
same people.
wouldn't their own experiences then fill in the details
The
where the lie
the
ends?
argument isn't is the are you doing as well now as you were doing 8 years ago? That's not the argument. The argument is before COVID, when COVID started, when Trump was in office compared to now. That's the argument. Listen, things are still very difficult for a lot of people, David. I agree with you. But we're talking about when Donald Trump left office to
Right.
2024. We're not talking about pre-COVID. Now, I don't blame Donald Trump for COVID. I blame for him for how he, I guess, reacted to it and the lack of a response, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to get into that. The only point that I'm making is if you look at the stats, there was double the historical average of growth with the S&P 500. People in households are doing better, even though they, as you say, they don't feel it. Because if you listen to Newsmax or Fox News or Sean Hannity or Clay Travis every day, they will lead you to believe that because of Joe Biden, the sky is falling. But if you compare this country to the other countries in the world that we compare ourselves to based on the economy, we're up there doing very well. And that's not an accident. And that's not because of Donald Trump. That's because of Joe Biden.
Yeah, see, but again, I go back to what my neighbors in my community is experiencing. And from everybody I talk to around the country and in my local community, people don't feel that the economy is good. And you talk about the stock market. It's funny because when the stock market, when Republicans are in power, the stock market is all those bad, wealthy guys that we should be taxing more. And now when the Democrats in office, we're celebrating the growth in the stock market. Who are the people making money in the stock market right now? It's not the people that the Democrats say they care about. And if the Democrats had their way and the tax increases, when Trump's tax cuts suspend or sunset, that stock market is not going to be going up at the rate it is. It's just right now, there's a lot of cash out there and people are trying to find places to put it, and real estate is too expensive to invest in. So
the biggest bill that Donald Trump passed, arguably in his 4 years in office, was the biggest tax break for the top 1%. But that's not an opinion. That's a fact.
Well, but when you get into the economics of it, and I know we don't have time to get in that, when you give people at the income, when the wealth generators are able to generate more wealth, everybody does better because wealth generators are the ones who pay people.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more question before we
Sure.
go. And this is going back to, I guess, the feelings aspect of it.
Yeah, we love feelings.
Right. But if, let's just say Kamala Harris was on a stage making a speech, and she attacked the looks of, I don't know, Melania Trump, made fun of her dress, made fun of her look, fat shamed Donald Trump. Would you be the first person to say, hey, I don't have a problem with that. That's fine?
I'm pretty sure they probably have. I would have to go back and do some research.
No, they haven't. No,
listen, Orange Man didn't come just out of nowhere. I mean, you talked about the amount of makeup he was wearing before.
Well, yeah, because I'm a talk show host. I'm not the president or vice president of the United States. I'm not running for president. Yeah, Donald Trump makes fun of fat people. Have you seen? He's obese. He's morbidly obese, and he looks like a clown. But I'm a radio host, and I only do that because he does that to others. And it's despicable and it's disgusting. If the vice president today made fun of Donald Trump and called him fat or whatever, Come on, be honest with me. You would be
I'll be
speaking out against
100% honest with you. I'm a conservative pundit. I'd be the first one to point it out because
Okay, so isn't
it
it?
would be
You
good
made my
news.
point. You made David, and rightfully so. I wouldn't have a problem with you because it would be wrong, and I would
Right.
call
But
it out.
then I would have you on and you would tell me why it's okay. So
No,
it-
I wouldn't. I just said it. David, see, okay. Look, this is the fundamental difference between you and me.
Right.
If the vice president or Joe Biden went on a debate stage and made fun of Melania Trump's looks or the dress she was wearing or fat shamed Donald Trump, David, I swear to you on my family, I would say it's wrong. It's beneath the presidency or vice presidency. And you just admitted to me, if the vice president did that or Joe Biden did that, you'd be calling it out. But yet when Donald Trump does it yesterday and makes fun of Nikki Haley's looks, somehow that's okay. David, you're making my point for me. That's the definition of hypocrisy.
That's a good thing about being in a cult, I guess. We see things in an interesting way.
Fair enough. David, I always appreciate the conversation.
Yeah.
Next time we come on, I want to have a substance argument about the economy because I think it's a really good debate and it's a really important conversation to have.
Absolutely.
But I want to get your thoughts maybe in a few weeks down the road when Nikki Haley drops out. We all know it's a matter of time.
Oh gosh, we're
We
all
agree
holding our
on that.
breath for the same thing. We got to talk about that for sure. I love being
We
on your
will.
show, man. Thank you so much for having me.
And David, I always appreciate the conversation. It's always respectful between us, and it's always a good debate. And we definitely want you back. And I appreciate your time, David. Okay, have a great rest of your day.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much, David Pollock. Everybody, David Pollock podcast. Okay, I have to say this. I think I caught David there a little bit. He admitted that if the vice president or the president today fat shamed people or made fun of women on looks, he would have a problem with that. And by the way, I appreciate that. I would have a problem with it too. I agree with him. But then when Donald Trump does it yesterday, that's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's a little bit of hypocrisy. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take more phone calls on the other side. The number to call is 702-221-7283. Again, 702-221-SAVE. Always like it when David joins us. Thoughts on that? And then we have a very special guest coming in studio. She's an author, has been very active with the Democratic Party. Her name is Ileana Dropkin. I want to get a female's perspective on what Republicans are trying to do when it comes to abortion and so many other topics. Be back in 90 seconds, taking your calls on the other side. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Always fun having David Pollack on the show because I want to get that different perspective, and we're respectful to one another, and I do appreciate David coming on the show. It's always a good conversation, but I did catch him. Talk about the hypocrisy, right? Donald Trump going after Nikki Haley's looks yesterday, that's totally okay to David. But if the vice president or Joe Biden did it, he'd be the first one talking out against it. Come on, can we just be honest here? And he's wrong about me. If Joe Biden did that and fat shamed somebody or went after a political rival, went after their looks, I would have a problem with that also. Can we just stop it with the hypocrisy? Anyway, to talk about this and much more, and by the way, we're going to be taking some phone calls coming up here in just a few minutes, but we have a very special guest in studio. So Ileana Dropkin is an author. She has been very active in the past within the Democrat Party and Democrat politics. She's also done a lot for charity. She's worked with Bob and Sandy Ellis for that foundation, if you're not familiar with it. Helped so many kids with clothing, with shoes. It really is awesome. And Ileana, getting a female perspective from a Democrat, which I always appreciate, joins us right now in studio. Ileana, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I always appreciate coming on your show.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Can I ask you, let me just start with this. From a female's perspective here.
Yes.
Because everybody hears this guy talk, this dude talk, When you hear Donald Trump yesterday attack Nikki Haley's dress, making fun of her look, what goes through your mind?
Well, he has nothing else to attack her for. And he's repulsive. There's nothing else to say about it. And not just him, but anybody who does that to a female, it's dehumanizing. It's not okay. I've served on boards. I've been chair of boards, and I've been singled out for looks, been called names that my male counterparts would never have been called. So it's absolutely disgusting.
And I just feel like it's such hypocrisy to begin with. But, this is the part I don't understand about the Republican Party today, many in the Republican Party. You have a man that's going after you personally. He's going after your looks. I remember back Ted Cruz, when he went after Ted Cruz's wife, basically calling her ugly. And then Ted Cruz supports him. Nikki Haley is going to support Donald Trump for president of the United States. How?
Wait,
How?
not just her. What about all the women voters who are for Trump and think that that's okay?
Right.
That's what I more have an issue with. Like,
Yeah.
she's in a position where she kind of has to, right?
Yeah,
like,
I
they all
agree.
have to fall in line, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. We all have to do our part. But it's for all the women voters who think that that behavior is okay. Because if they were called out in their jobs by a male counterpart or a boss, they would be up in arms.
Right.
But but for that to be okay for them, and they make jokes of it and light of it and laugh about it, that I find just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, and I don't understand how anybody would be okay with that. Now, I like David Pollack. He's a friend. He does a very popular conservative talk show. He just joined us, and he admitted that, hey, listen, if Joe Biden, he thought that, what do you make of this? He thinks that everybody talks behind closed doors like Donald Trump. And I said, you're crazy for there's no way Joe Biden is attacking women on looks and making these types of statements. There's no way. Could there be a few Democrats out there that say some
of course.
bad? Of course.
Yes.
But to say that like Kamala Harris or Joe Biden would be making statements about Nikki Haley's appearance and dress. I mean, give me a break. I do that. I call him the orange turd, but I'm a talk show host. I'm not a politician. And guess what? If I was running for office, I wouldn't talk like that.
No.
The idea that, well, everybody talks like that behind closed doors, but Trump just does it in front of a mic is so despicable.
No, we don't all do that.
Yeah.
I've been in the room where it happens on my side.
Yeah.
I can tell you, no, we're very different. And I will tell you, even most Republicans are decent, right? Like, I've worked with them both.
Sure.
They're decent. Somehow Trump and Trumpism has corrupted a vein of the Republican Party, and so what you have is a lot of officials think that they have to join the bandwagon, to be cool. And also, I'll go back to, people love bullies.
Yeah,
People
I
love
don't.
bullies,
I
but
certainly
the
don't,
masses do. The masses fall in line, and women as well. Like, they'll say privately, we hate bullies, just like Melania Trump had about her husband was the biggest bully there is.
It's such a joke, Ileana. I completely agree with you. So do you want to get right into the forest fire here and take some phone calls? What do you think? All right, Ileana, why don't we do that? A female's perspective on the left, We're going to be taking some phone calls now at 702-221-7283. Let's start off with Roy. Roy, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, Roy?
Oh, God, so much is on my mind. It's ridiculous. Let's start with the fact that when Donald Trump opened his mouth, Tim Scott's head pops out. and I do hope Nikki Haley stays in the race, because the longer she stays in the race, the better chance that Donald Trump will have a stroke from it. I would vote for Godzilla before I'd vote for Trump.
As would I.
But David Pollack is so wrong in so many respects.
Yeah.
Number one, every time the last Republican in office before Trump was Bush, George W. Bush. Mm-hmm. Both times they put through these tax cuts, and what happens? The deficit soars. Now, they blame the Democrats for spending. Yeah, the Democrats spend. But if you keep reducing revenues by cutting taxes, what do you think is going to happen to the deficit?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Donald Trump, he talks about what a great presidency had. He increased the deficit by almost $8 trillion.
You're right.
Yeah.
Roy, what do you make of that interview I just did with David Pollack, where I just gave him facts about the economy, and then he says, well, that's not what people are feeling. And I said, what do you mean what people are feeling? That doesn't mean it. The fact of the matter is that, inequality much better now than it was when Trump was in office. The S&P 500 climbed 24% in 2023. An average U.S. household is much better off now than it was in 2020. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are being created every month, lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. And his only response to me is, well, that's not what people are feeling. And I'm like, what do you?
Well, the interest rates have made a difference, but you realize that for a number of years, when mortgage rates were in the 3 and 3.5 and 4% rate, that was not normal.
Right.
I can go back 40, 50 years. You generally paid 8 and 8.5% for a mortgage. You paid 6 or 7% or 8% for a car loan.
Yeah.
Those numbers were not normal.
Right.
And I remember Trump saying,
yeah.
I know. I'm a financial guy. I know all this shit.
Well, here's what I would say, Roy. I would say I think you and Ileana should run for president and vice president. You guys both have my vote, okay? Roy, I got to jump to some other callers, but it's good to hear from you, my friend. I appreciate you,
all
Roy.
right.
Thank you. I want a Roy Ileana ticket. That's what I want.
I want to bring up something really quickly. So there is some truth to people don't feel that. Like, there is some absolute truth to that.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that it is President Biden's fault, right? We just came out of like the worst health crisis globally.
Exactly.
That we've felt probably ever in the fact that we are so tied in economically worldwide.
100%.
So, but people don't feel that. When you go to the grocery store, your dollar doesn't spend as it is.
I agree, but it also doesn't help these people. They watch Newsmax
and they keep
Fox
touting
News.
that, right.
It's all Joe Biden's fault when they actually can't separate fact from fiction, and those people are brainwashed.
Oh, there's so much fiction in the news.
Is the economy as good now as it was before COVID? No. Right now, probably not for a lot of different reasons.
It depends what benchmarks you're going
Right, exactly. But things are doing a lot better now than they were when Trump left office, and that's what I'm focused on. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Oh, boy. MAGA resident. Is that who we're going to next? The MAGA resident, Julie, calling into Pushing the Limits. Hello, Julie.
Hi, Julie.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Talking about the inflation. Brian, do you know that inflation is globally because the World Economic Forum is passing and pushing the same policies across the globe? Are you aware of that, Brian?
Sure. I'll answer that by saying, are you aware that inflation was 9%, now down to 3.4%? Are you aware, Julie?
But yes, you are aware that the World Economic Forum is pushing for the same policies here
Julie,
in America.
I'm going to ask this question again. Julie,
that's the reason why Germany...
Can't do it. Julie, I'm going to ask you a question now because you're talking about inflation, right? So tell me if you would give Donald Trump credit for this or Joe Biden. Inflation, hold on, Julie, I got to ask my question. Inflation has tumbled from a peak of around 9% in June of 2022 to now 3.4%. Do you give Donald Trump credit for that? Do you give Joe Biden credit for that? Go ahead.
When was the last time that you went to the grocery store? Be honest with me.
I didn't Julie, pot her down again.
No.
Yeah. See, I pod people down when they don't answer my questions. I asked you a specific question. This is according to the Federal Reserve's preferred price gouge. And by the way, you probably think that's funded by George Soros. It's not. The question wasn't how many times I go to the supermarket. I'll answer that for you after you answer my question. I'll tell you how many times I go to the bathroom a day if you'd like that information as well. But the question is, and I'm going to ask it again, Julie, inflation has tumbled from 9% to 3.4% in a little over a year and a half. Do you give Joe Biden credit for that or Donald Trump?
Joe Biden is responsible for the inflation in this country and the people suffering and struggling in this country. That's a fact. You want to ignore it? That's a fact. Because if you are going after the farmers and you are pushing the farmers to stop, yes, it is true. It is true because I'm calling congressmen every single day.
Oh, because you're calling congressman. That must mean you're right, Julie. Yeah.
Congressman, yes, and I'm debating
that must mean you're right. Yeah.
Department of Agriculture.
I called the tooth fairy last out, so that must mean I'm right.
They are going after the Amish.
Hey, Julie, why do you think inflation went down? Why do you think it went down? Can you at least answer one of my questions?
Where is inflation down, Brian?
Okay, Julie, here's the problem. I'm done with Julie. Julie, thank you for calling in. Julie, thank you for calling in. You just asked me, where is inflation down? I just asked you the same question 3 times, which, by the way, you didn't answer. And I'm not going to explain it again. Ileana, do you see what I have to go through?
Yeah, she can't answer that. Yeah. It's almost a brainwashing of the people, so there's no facts involved.
All right, let's go to the next caller, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Jerry. Jerry is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
Hi, Jerry. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Oh, a lot of things. I'm a senior. I was never really involved with politics. I've voted both Democrat and Republican in my 78 years. But since Trump became available in 2016, I am so very concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I've listened to the lady who is complaining and saying about inflation. It's true. Our prices are higher.
Sure.
But it's not President Biden's fault.
Exactly. And why is it so hard for people to understand that? We had a global pandemic. The war in the Ukraine certainly didn't help. Gas prices have been going straight down for the last 18 months. Inflation has gone straight down for the last 18 months. The average household is better now than they were in 2020. The facts speak for themselves. And, I try to give people those facts. And if you don't want to give Joe Biden credit for it, fine. But don't attack him because you don't think the economy is where it should be. Donald Trump is the one that left Joe Biden with a disaster.
Yes, but you cannot. There is, in my opinion, and an opinion in some of us elderly people, there actually is no longer a Republican Party. There are Republicans, but the MAGA
You're right.
have taken over.
Hey,
the
you know what?
Republican Party.
I'm glad you brought that up because tomorrow on the show, we're going to have the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, and he has echoed exactly what you just said, by the way, which is that he doesn't recognize the Republican Party anymore. In fact, the Mooch told me personally that he's going to campaign with Joe Biden if they'll allow him to, and he's willing to do anything and everything to make sure Donald Trump doesn't get reelected, and the Mooch is going to join us on the show tomorrow.
Okay, and I would like to put some input into why people feel like that the economy is President Biden's fault. They absolutely forget and ignore that Trump was president in 2019 and 2020.
Right.
They ignore the fact that our shelves were empty. Unemployment was over 14%.
Correct.
People couldn't pay rent. Every state had food lines, and people went hungry.
Wait a second. You're speaking facts? See, that's the type of word that most MAGA Republicans can't spell. You're speaking facts.
Exactly.
I appreciate you. Where are you calling from, by the way?
Oh, the great Republican state of Indiana.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, say hello to Larry Bird out there in French Lick, and I appreciate you finding this show in Indiana. And you be safe out there, okay? You call back anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
So,
Go ahead.
speaking as a pretty loyal Democrat, we can't also, being that there was a global pandemic and we were at, fully blame Trump for the inflation and for that, right? So if we're going to be fair, we have to at least be fair to both sides.
Ileana, I
Otherwise, we lose
agree.
some credibility,
I agree.
right?
So here's what I say to that, and you could tell me, your thoughts. I don't blame Donald Trump for the pandemic. I don't blame him for COVID, right? Even though he, said a lot of nice things about President Xi, who's a scumbag dictator.
Right.
And
aside from that, just the economics of it.
What I blame Donald Trump for is the response. Not all of it on him, but he's the one who said it was 15 cases down to 0. It was going to be gone by Easter. He talked about injecting yourself in disinfectant.
I'm with you on that. That was
the
was
messaging.
botched.
He used coronavirus press conferences as campaign rallies,
Right.
And Joe Biden would never do that.
Well, because he's not a sophisticated person. He's not a
he's a dumbbell.
He's not right. He's not an intelligent person.
He's a dumbbell.
But as far as in inflation and what happened worldwide and supply chain issues, just like when President Biden came in, he had to deal with the supply chain issues and that and the shelves being emptied. That wasn't a President Trump issue, but Biden had to come in and fix it.
All right, Ileana.
And he did a good job.
Yeah, he did. I'm going to give you the option here. Do you want a Trump supporter calling in or a Democrat calling in?
Oh, let's go with the Trump supporter.
All right, let's go to 702-221-7283. Let's go to Herb. Herb is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Herb.
How did I know you were going to me?
I gave her the option.
Hi, Herb.
Listen, I just wanted to ask both of you this question. Earlier, you were talking about cognitive abilities and things. If Trump is the candidate for the Republican Party and Biden is the candidate for the Democratic Party, do you think they're going to have, listen to me now, a face-to-face debate at any time during the campaign?
Sure, I'll answer that question, but I'll start by saying this. Your guy refused to do a face-to-face debate for several debates on a debate stage. I'd like to know what his excuse was for that.
I know what he did, Brian. I know, but that's whataboutism.
No, it's not. I'm talking to you about
I asked you a question.
I'm going to answer, and you didn't let me finish. First of all, I believe the answer would be yes. Second of all, you're asking me about showing up to a debate between Trump and Biden, and I'm just responding by saying it's interesting you asked that when your guy refused to do a debate with Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and Chris Christie on a stage. And the excuse I hear from Republicans is, oh, well, he didn't have to. So let me ask you a question now. If Joe Biden decides that he doesn't want to debate Trump, would you accept the excuse if Joe Biden supporter says he doesn't have to? Because that's the excuse people like you use when Trump didn't get on a debate stage. Is that a legitimate excuse? Yes or no?
Brian, think about it now.
Don't Brian me. Answer the question.
Think about it for a second.
No, you think about it. I asked you the question.
See, the problem is when Trump opens his mouth, it's bad for Trump.
Answer my question.
Right? So when Trump opens his mouth, it's bad for Trump. Like, we all know that. That's why he doesn't want to debate. So in answer to your question, from my perspective, like, yes, it is traditional that the Republican nominee and the Democratic nominee debate each other, a series of debates before everyone goes out to vote. Will Donald Trump agree to do that? That's the unknown, because everything that's standard and usual, he seems to go the opposite. So if they feel it's going to hurt him, he probably won't. When he opens his mouth, it's bad for him, and his numbers go down.
The only reason why I'm bringing this up to Herb and Ileana is because you're asking me about Joe Biden and Donald Trump debating one another, and all I'm simply saying is, I find it interesting that the excuse that Donald Trump supporters make is that, oh, Trump didn't have to go on that debate stage because he had nothing to win. And I'm telling you right now, if Biden decided not to debate Trump, which there's no evidence that he will not debate him, if Joe Biden supporters use that excuse, you'd be attacking those supporters.
Everyone would.
Yeah, so why don't you say the same thing about Donald Trump, who didn't do a debate because he's a coward?
Okay, well, I think that the poll numbers are a lot closer between Biden and Trump.
That's because Trump hasn't been front and center. Like, when Trump is front and center, his numbers go down. Like, if you notice what happened with the primary yesterday, he he actually got less votes than I mean, it was kind of surprising that Trump got the fewer votes that he did. So no, there's a big problem.
But
there's
Herb,
some big warning
but
signs
Herb,
on
to
that.
answer your question, yes, I think there should be as many debates as possible.
But there probably
and
won't.
I think it's a disgrace that Donald Trump didn't debate his fellow Republicans. And if Joe Biden refuses to debate Donald Trump, then I will call him out on it, unlike you, who refuses to call out Cheeto Jesus. But I do appreciate the call, Herb, and I did answer your question honestly, because I will always do that.
But the Democrats always call our people out. Like, that's
Right.
one thing that we're good at. We can't message our way out of a box, but we
I'm
always call our
consistent.
people out.
Donald Trump's
Always.
a coward, and that's just the bottom line. 702-221-7283. Thank you for the call, Herb. Let's go to Susan. Susan is next up on Pushing Limits. What's up, Susan?
Hi, I got a lot of things I want to talk about. First off, I want to say that the reason Donald Trump can lie like that is because he's a psychopath, and psychopaths believe what they say.
That's true.
So that's my opinion. Also, when you fat shame Trump, that transfers out to other people as well. And so I think that you should not do that because it looks badly on you.
Wait, say that one more time. Check me on that.
When you fat shame Trump.
Okay, so here's the difference.
That
Hold on.
translates out. to
Okay,
other
so
people.
Susan, hear me out on this, okay?
Okay.
I am making an example that Donald Trump has fat shamed Chris Christie and others. And the point now, I wouldn't be talking about Donald Trump's physique if he didn't do it to other people. The point I'm trying to make is it doesn't matter whether you're skinny or fat. You shouldn't do it regardless. I'm pointing out that Donald Trump is not on the front of Fitness Magazine because he's a hypocrite, because he calls out others. And I say, have you looked at yourself in the mirror? Because he's insecure. Example, I would never fat shame Chris Christie. The reason why is he doesn't fat shame people. Even Ron DeSantis, okay? I think we all could agree Ron DeSantis is not, he's not Mr.
Physically
Physique.
fit.
But I have never on the air gone after Ron DeSantis for his physique. Now, I've gone after him for policy and things that he's done. Now, why? Because Ron DeSantis hasn't, while I disagree with his despicable behavior and the migrants he put on a plane, I've never gone after his body. I'll be honest, I made fun of his boots a little bit because I thought they were funny. But I've never gone after his physique or body. I've never gone after his wife in that way because they haven't done that to other people. I only go after those people to show that they're hypocrites and they shouldn't be doing it to begin with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, you were talking about presidential behavior.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that there should be a higher standard of behavioral constraints for a president.
Yes.
Because he's representing the entire United States, not himself.
Damn right, but he'll never behave like that, though, as you know, Susan.
No.
He's not capable.
No.
Right, he's incapable. He'll go after POWs. He'll go after women. He'll go after Mexicans. He'll go after brown people. I mean, across the board, he'll go after anybody and everybody. Susan, it is good to hear from you. I appreciate your phone call. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Okay.
You betcha.
Appreciate it.
It's
702.
part of why he does that is because it works, right? It works for the people around him, and it works for, 30% of the Republican Party is actually identifies as MAGA, right? And it works for him, and so he's an attention hog. So as long as that's working, he's going to keep doing it. He can't help himself. And if you notice, he tests lines. He's actually Machiavellian. There's a brilliance to what he does when he's out on the stump. He's testing lines, and he'll say it once, and he'll say it twice, and he'll say it a third time, and he's testing the reaction. So if the crowd is going crazy, that becomes a part of his stump.
It's so funny, though, because
we're part of
he's
this,
mentally ill and
For sure.
beyond insecure, but it's so funny because he's talking in an indoor arena yesterday, and he's saying this crowd in this arena has broken all sorts of records. Meanwhile, behind him, this is true, this is not an opinion, is a black curtain where half the arena, the seats are empty, but they didn't want to show the empty seats. You cannot make this stuff up. His lies are so stupid. I mean, it's just incredible. Let's get back to the phones. Let's go to, I believe we have Delaney. Is that correct? Delaney is next up on Pushing Limits. Hi, Delaney.
Delani.
Sorry about that. Delaney, my apologies. Go right ahead.
Hey, Brian, I've been listening to you this whole week and commenting. I don't know if you saw it,
Thank you.
saying all kinds of stuff. Basically, the other caller just said that he's a psychopath. I think he's a sociopath.
Yeah, either or. Take your pick. Probably both. Probably both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, probably both. Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
And to be honest, just to make a comment about Nikki Haley, I think her being in there wants to maybe save the Republican Party. I mean, that's just my idea. And if something happens to Trump, then maybe she can come forward. That's what I was thinking yesterday when she refused to give up.
You know
and by the way, she was.
You know what's so disappointing though?
Her dress was nice.
Yeah, I thought she looked great, but it's like everybody dresses differently. Who cares? It's like people want to go after Fetterman for the way he dresses, in office, whatever. But what I care about is the human being. I appreciate the fact that Fetterman talks about depression and what he's gone through in his life. He's on the right side when it comes to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. I respect the man.
Yes.
Listen, if a guy is a good human being and he passes bills, he can wear jeans into office as far as I care about.
The same with women.
Yeah.
Right? So
absolutely.
when we do one, we have to do the other. So same with women.
Absolutely. I agree.
Not all women have to wear heels. Not all, right? We don't all have to, I absolutely... that is such a double standard that we carry everywhere, whether it's the political world or the corporate world.
Yeah.
I have a friend who just got out of banking in a decent position, and she was told by her boss, like, wait, wear your heels, wear this. No, you have to wear that. And she said he would come in jeans, but she was told she wasn't allowed to dress like that.
Thank you for your comments, my friend, on social media. Thank you for being a fan of the show, and please keep it up.
Oh, one more thing.
Yep, go ahead, quickly.
One more thing.
Yep.
RFK Jr. was here trying to get 800 signatures to be on the Hawaii's ballot.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if he got it, but I'm just saying that he was here this weekend.
The conspiracy theorist kook about vaccines, RFK Jr. Thank you for the call, my friend. I appreciate it. All right, we have another MAGA call. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Charles, who's next up on Pushing Limits. Hello, Charles.
Hey, Brian. How's it going?
What's up, Charles? What's on your mind, my friend?
Nothing. I was just talking about some of the economy and the inflation you guys were talking about. And you guys say it's not Biden's fault. And I disagree. And I want to hear why it's not Biden's fault besides chain issues and some of the things you talked about.
Okay, well, let's start it with you. Why is it Joe Biden's fault, and what specific policies you think have caused inflation and gas prices to rise?
Oh, I can tell you all of it. He had extended leave during COVID. He produced 2 stimulus checks, which obviously started printing money, which causes inflation.
That actually started under
Donald Trump.
You guys are always
that started under Trump.
So first of all, when you say something that is not factually accurate,
that is factually accurate.
Who started the stimulus checks? Biden or Trump?
Trump did the first stimulus check. Biden followed up with 2 stimulus checks.
See. So same.
2 stimulus checks.
Gotcha. Okay. So it starts.
Wait. Did you receive a stimulus check?
That's not the point. The point is why it
Did you receive it, and did you spend it?
It's why it happened. What's the conversation? That's the topic.
Well, people
right?
can
Is
pay
that
their
the
bills,
topic?
but you spent the check, right? You didn't put it away some more or rip it up so it went back into the treasury. You spent the money, right?
All right, so again, I'm going to go stick to the facts. Let's stick to the facts.
That is the fact.
Extended leave, which keep people out of work longer than they had to.
Okay, so let's go with that.
Checks,
let's do one at a time.
Printed money.
Let's do one at a time.
Inflation. And you know what?
Let's do one at a time.
Florida survived.
Sir,
Okay,
let's first of all, per capita, Florida had more deaths than almost any other state in the country. But let's do one at a time.
That's not true.
Okay, yes, it is. I'm sorry you can't spell the word fact, but let's go with it, okay? You just talked about jobs. Do you know that the unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in 50 years? Now, I know you'll come up with an excuse for it because that's what MAGA supporters do. But if you want to talk about facts, first of all, the unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in 50 years. Inflation is down from 9.1% a year and a half ago to 3.2%. The S&P 500
Stock
climbed
market, yeah.
24% in 2023. But you don't want to talk about those facts, do you, sir? You want to talk about an you want to talk
about 'em.
you want
I
to
do
talk
wanna
about
talk
an
about 'em.
extra
And you know what?
you want to
Per
talk about I'm
capita-
not done yet. You want to talk about an
Oh,
extra
okay, go ahead.
you want to talk about an extra stimulus check that Joe Biden gave out. I just said an extra. 1 + 1 is 2. Can MAGA supporters not add 1 + 1? Donald Trump gave out the first stimulus
There's the
check.
insult. We're used to the
Excuse
insult.
me,
Go ahead.
sir. Well, because you have to emphasize 2 when I just said Trump started it with 1, and then you say 2. I understand 2 is 1 more than 1. I get that, sir. But you didn't rip up that stimulus check, as Ileana
Exactly.
eloquently pointed out. You
Biden
cashed it.
did 2 stimulus checks.
But
2.
hold
Trump
on,
did
but
1,
hold
Biden
on.
did 2.
And okay, so going
And
with
it's them
that
to leave at home,
logic, if
so then you
people
have
couldn't
all
pay
these
their bills, hold on, if people couldn't pay their bills with that logic when President Biden came into office and couldn't buy food, and it was just pandemonium everywhere, you would then be blaming him for not doing something to help all these people because we were still in dire straits in the middle of a pandemic and people were still dying, correct? Correct. So that there can't be a double standard to that. I mean, you can have a double standard, but that's not okay. That absolutely makes no sense. You're bitching about the stimulus check, but you cashed the stimulus check and you spent the stimulus check, which is actually great because it went back into the economy, which is what you want, right? You want money circulating. You need money circulating.
Right. But you still had inflation at record levels.
But that's not the total cause of inflation.
Hold
on, that's not the total cause of inflation, right? There's more to that. There's first of all, there's high demand with less ability to supply. That also adds to inflation.
Why?
Because China shut down all of their goods. Where do you think we get the goods in order to spend?
Down the country.
Hold on, where do you think we get most of our goods? We don't produce things here. We're not. The United States does not produce. We're getting it from India, from China.
If nobody's at the ports to receive the goods, you're not going to get goods. You see how it works?
Charles.
If nobody's driving the truck.
So
you're
said
not going to get the
Charles.
goods.
Let's start over here. Let me ask you some questions now. You made the claim that Joe Biden's responsible for the horrible economy. By the way, it's not a horrible economy now. And if we compare this country to the other countries we compare ourselves to, we're doing better than a lot of those other countries when it comes to inflation and gas prices. But Charles, let me ask you a question. Which economy that a president took over you think was a better situation? Donald Trump taking over from Barack Obama or Joe Biden taking over Donald Trump? Which economy do you think was better, Charles?
Oh, absolutely. Biden taking over for Trump.
Wait,
Because
hold on.
Was fantastic.
Hold on.
Wait,
Okay,
what part of the economy was fantastic?
Hold on. I potted him down because this is going to make my head explode. Charles is calling into this show, making the claim, I can't even believe Charles is saying this, that the economy was better, the economy that Joe Biden took over under Trump, than the economy Trump took over under Obama. Sir, with all due respect, it's hard to have any conversation with you
during a global pandemic.
Yeah, after that statement that you just made, which is beyond idiotic.
Can I explain? May I explain?
But please.
Please explain why the earth is flat. I'd love to hear.
So everything, if you look before the pandemic, we were at the lowest
We're not
unemployment
talking
ever.
about the question.
For blacks,
The
Hispanics,
question
hold on.
wasn't
So
no.
then when the pandemic hit,
the question wasn't before the pandemic. Will you listen to what I just said? Let me repeat it again for you, and I'll speak slowly. Okay? The question was not what was the economy like before the pandemic. The question was the economy that Joe Biden took over after Trump left office, even though he refused to. And I'm going to ask it one more time to see you have any intellectual honesty, because I'm not sure you are capable, sir, with all due respect. Who took over a better economy?
March 15th of 2020 had record.
I don't think like we're not blaming.
Who was
Trump.
the president in 2015?
Barack Obama.
Thank you. So you talked about records. So would you give Barack Obama credit for that since he was the president in 2015?
As far as what?
What you just said. What you just said.
Listen, we're not
saying that Obama had horrible GDP.
All right.
Oh my God.
Have a nice day.
Okay.
I think you have horrible brain cells, sir.
Listen, we're not blaming Trump for the state of the economy once he left office, but you can't deny that President Biden hasn't done a really good job fixing and putting it back together.
By the way, that guy claims that he's Julie's brother. I don't know.
Callers are all saying the
Are
same
you Julie's
thing. Nobody
brother?
is feeling this.
Sir,
great
are you related to
economy that
Julie?
Everyone's gaslighting.
Is that true, sir? Are you related to Julie, or were you being facetious when you said that?
I want to be related to Julie. I think
Oh,
Julie
you want
makes.
to? Yeah. She makes about as much sense as you do, sir. Have a nice day. By the way, even MAGA Republicans, most that have a brain, would admit that Donald Trump took over a much better economy than Joe Biden did. That is one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard in my life. Coming out of a global pandemic, the guy says that Biden took over a better economy than Trump did. How can you have a conversation with somebody like that who thinks the earth is flat and the sky is purple? Thank you for the call, sir. You made my head explode. Thank you. And not in a good way. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. All right, let's go to Victor. Victor is next up on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Victor?
How you doing, guys? Thanks for allowing me to participate. Look, first of all, does this MAGA crowd don't remember that during Trump administration, we don't even have toilet paper? What is going on with these people?
Well, have no fear, because if there's a huge national emergency, Trump will fly to your city and he'll toss you some paper towels and toilet paper.
Yeah, he'll throw it at you.
And if you're lucky,
That's correct, yes.
he's a hero, isn't he? What a patriot! What a patriot!
I mean, what world these people are living for? I can't even understand. And let's go to facts. Hey, you want another MAGA administration to come and take place over Biden? Wait for another another $8 trillion debt into our national, into our national debt. Okay, then they're going to have a reason to take your Social Security, your 401k, you take whatever they call whatever they call entitlement. Okay, that's one thing. Okay,
right.
Wait for it. Wait for what you're wishing for. But
Can I ask you a question? Because
go on.
Because we both in studio, I was mesmerized by that last caller, even by a MAGA person standards. How can you have a conversation? And I'm happy to talk to people that I disagree with. I do it every day. But how can you have a reasonable conversation, any type of intellectual conversation, with somebody that claims that the economy that Biden took over was much better than the economy Trump took over after Obama? How can you even have a conversation with somebody like that?
Never. It's impossible. I mean, I see you guys try to, find a common ground. He just keep throwing crap that he doesn't even know what he's talking about. I kind of believe that he's a Russian troll. That's what I believe. I mean, aren't these guys understand?
No, I think you're right. I think that last caller was in the Mueller report. I might be wrong on that, but that could be possible. I don't know.
But let me tell you really quick for those MAGA, whatever you can call it. I don't even have a name anymore. You want to have
wait, hold on. I'm going to interrupt you. I got to interrupt you. Sorry. I'm going to give you, just use this term, MAGA buffoon. It feels really good to say that word.
That's my sounds a lot better. Sounds Italian. I love that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted. Go ahead.
Listen, you want to have another Putin's, you elect Trump, and you're going to have a Putin's right in the White House.
What do you think Republicans? What do you think Republicans would have said if Barack Obama said he was writing love letters to Kim Jong Un? What do you think?
Kim Jong Un.
Yeah.
We fall in love at first sight.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. What do you think Republicans would have said about that?
There will be a immediate. There will be a coup.
Yeah.
Right away.
I'm with you, my man. We're in very weird times. I appreciate your phone call. I'm glad there are people like you out there. And we just have to call out and separate fact from fiction. That's all we can do. And go from there and call out people who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And I call
those good Republicans to stand up for our republic, not for a party organization.
Yeah, but
thank you very much.
Thank you. Trump won the 2020 election. He took over a better economy than Joe Biden took over a better economy than Donald Trump. I mean, folks, you cannot make this stuff up. But then again, if you listen to the words coming out of Donald Trump's mouth, if you watch Newsmax or OAN religiously, then you are brainwashed, and that's how you turn into somebody like that, and it's scary.
I mean, what a fall from grace, right? You have Obama was attacked relentlessly for wearing a tan suit.
Right.
And then you have, the next president, I use that in air quotes, is this horrific buffoon. I don't know how else to say that. Like I usually don't like to degrade people like that, but there's nothing else that I
would
could
use the term
possibly
clown,
say.
but that would be offensive to the clowns that are working at Circus on
Yeah,
Las
no,
Vegas
and
Strip.
it's not strong enough, right? Like
Right.
it's just not strong enough.
Oh,
and
he's
so,
an evil wannabe dictator. He is.
but he's not intelligent. At least some of the dictators are they're horrific, but at least there's some intellect behind it. So now you have that with this massive of ignorance, and so now we're going into where we're on the precipice of world war, and in reality we are running a world war, but it's a shadow war, right? In two different places in the world, and it's awfully scary.
I'm going to tell you right now, Donald Trump didn't do him any favors with the speech he made last night going after
No,
Nikki Haley.
exactly.
There are a lot of independents and reasonable Republicans that watch that and say, Donald Trump ain't changing, he's only getting worse, and Donald Trump is not going to win in November, and I'm going to tell you that I feel more confident about that now than I did 3 months ago, not to even mention the 91 felony counts that he's facing, the 4 separate indictments. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Kathleen, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi there.
Hi, Kathleen. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Well, I have just back to the economy. I'm in Texas. I'm in Austin, Texas, and it is booming here. I don't know what's happening everywhere else, but apartments, housing, recreation, parks, I mean, everything, the economy is just moving so fast in this area.
I bet Governor Abbott will probably take all the credit for that, I'm sure.
I'm sorry about that.
Can I ask you a Texas question, if I may, ma'am?
Yes.
So what do you make of this barbed wire situation where yesterday the Supreme Court decided that they are going to, they actually ruled in favor of Barrett? I can't believe the way she voted, but I'm shocked. Allowing Joe Biden to allow people at the border, border security, to get rid of that barbed wire. And now we see images and videos of Greg Abbott defying a Supreme Court decision, allowing them to keep the barbed wire up, in fact, putting up more barbed wire. What do you make of that being in Texas?
Yeah, it's hard to, I'm a Democrat, I'm liberal, and I'm in a liberal area. But the majority of Texas is still very rural and very super religious, super conservative, and that's what you've got. I'll tell you this, I've taken a couple trips to the border, and people that live on the border do not have the same attitude about immigration and immigrants. Now, we see them on TV, and they always interview the people that are, like, I'm afraid of people coming across. It's not like that. On the border, people live with each other. People go back and forth across the border. They work, they trade. It's an open economy. And if the people that lived on the border and the Mexican government were allowed to work this stuff out, it would probably get there. But what happens is you have politicians that do not live on. They do not understand the lifestyle of South Texas.
I think everything you're saying it makes complete sense to me, right? But I do want to ask her one more Texas question. I love Matthew McConaughey. I've always loved his acting abilities. I met Matthew McConaughey in L.A. 3 years ago. Couldn't have been nicer. But I got to tell you something. I'm disappointed in Matthew McConaughey because after the Uvalde shooting, I liked his passion. He goes to the White House. I appreciated that. Doesn't call out Governor Abbott, doesn't call out Republicans, and I understand he comes from a Republican family. I get that. I think his heart is in the right place. I really do. But when is he going to actually make a speech or make statements and call out the main reason, in my opinion, why we have so much gun violence in this country? It's because a lot of Republicans fail to put real, reasonable gun legislation on the books. And Matthew McConaughey doesn't talk about Governor Abbott, who, by the way, is passing a bill trying to make it easier for felons to get their hands on guns. After they get out of prison in 8 years, they can legally buy a gun.
Well, there's the other thing. You have to be a Texan to understand how Texans think. And guns are right underneath God in this state. It's God and it's guns.
Ridiculous.
And that is why, and he was raised a good old boy. I mean, he was raised by, I'm sure, a dad that had guns, and they shot guns, and it's part of their lifestyle. It's like so ingrained with people that when you talk about, even when you try to tell them, I mean, we're only talking about taking certain types of guns. All they hear is, take my guns. That's all they hear. And they will fight you tooth and nail. And that's what we have. That's
makes
the majority of Texas.
I'll even take it a step further. I think there might be some in Texas that put Donald Trump number one and then God number two. Or maybe they mix the two together. That's how the cultist crazies out there. That's what I think.
That's already been mixed together. Yeah. He's walking around with Jesus here.
Well, listen, I want to tell you something. That's funny. I want to tell you something quickly before. I lost my sister about a year ago to 37 years old to a drug overdose. And you know who called me? And we had a 45-minute conversation. Beto O'Rourke. I don't even know how he got my number, but he called me, and it was Beto, and he texted me. And he lost his sister as well recently. And he is such a good man that I have so much respect for. And boy, if he ever ran for president, I would have his back 150%. But I'm glad there are nice people out there in Texas like yourself. I appreciate you calling in.
We tried to get him. We tried to get him into the governor's seat. We tried.
He's a good man, and his political career is not over. Thank you so much for the phone call. It's great to hear from you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Appreciate you. Big programming note, by the way, I just want to remind everybody, we got the Mooch on tomorrow. Anthony Scaramucci is going to be joining us tomorrow. He is all in for Joe Biden, and this is a guy who was the press secretary for like 11 days, and he knows Trump better than anybody. He got out quickly. He's one of the smart ones. So he'll be joining us tomorrow, and that should be interesting. By the way, I want you to explain to all of our listeners out there, how could they get their hands on any book that you've written? Because I know you're an author also.
Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
Amazon. It's actually everywhere. You can order it from Target, Barnes & Nobles, pretty much any seller. But yeah, Amazon, if you just Google my name, Ileana Dropkin, it comes up. And I have some more exciting things, hopefully, on the horizon. So.
Well, you've been here in person, and you've seen some of the frustrations I have at times with some Trump supporters.
I'm with you. Yeah,
it's a bit frustrating. And listen, I have reasonable discussions with people. I would like to think some of our mutual friends, including somebody like an Amy Tarkanian, who's the former Nevada chair, who used to support Trump heavily, is on the right side of history now. I've made mistakes in my life. We all make mistakes. I made the mistake of not voting for Hillary Clinton. Now, I didn't vote for Donald Trump either. And I called it, I don't want to vote for the lesser of two evils. I should have voted for Hillary Clinton. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I won't make that same mistake again.
Well, she won the popular vote, right? So it wouldn't have made your vote, yes, every vote matters. Please don't, anyone don't understand that. But it is an electoral college, issue.
Well, without the electoral college, a Republican would never win the presidency.
Right,
let's be honest.
That's why they will not ever. They will not ever take that away.
It's a joke.
They won't.
It's a joke.
Like the population is within.
It shouldn't matter where you live. One vote should mean just as much as the other. The electoral college is a way for Republicans to cheat.
I kind of want to make a quick point here that we are becoming, we are, especially with this Supreme Court and all the horrible decisions that have been coming down the pike. We are becoming a country of red and blue states.
No question.
So there's a division, like access to abortion care is a red and blue state issue.
Absolutely.
On down, there's so many things that we are not only a divided country politically, but we're a divided country in what we can access.
We need more moderate people in office, Republican or Democrat. Ileana, I do really appreciate you coming in studio.
It was fun.
Thank you. And I want to give out my socials, by the way. If you're watching on the Occupy Democrats Network, click on that subscribe button. It's only $5 a month. You're supporting this show, and you're going to get extra content from yours truly. Also,
I did it too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Also, your my personal social media platform on YouTube, which is at PTL Radio Show. Also on TikTok. We also have our own Facebook fan page at PTL Radio Show. If you want to follow me on the social media platforms and X. Appreciate Ileana Dropkin for joining us. Also, David Pollack, a staunch MAGA supporter. We had a really good, respectful conversation, and he joined us as well. Tomorrow, it's the Mooch, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Anthony Scaramucci will be joining us on the show, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a good day.